A new beginning. Logan was a normal healthy man of 28 years. He followed his predetermined life from his birth to school and later in the world of commerce. The longer he lived, the more he felt that this world was a cruel one. People preyed on the weak like vultures. Now he sat in front of a table and was scribbling on a white piece of paper. There were some doodles of black shadowy beasts and skulls, and amidst all those little drawings was a small text. +++. A beginning is always the start of a new journey. And every journey has an end. For every path taken forward in determination, one will leave behind the past, but not the grudges. And humanity a fickle object. Forever, warps in the face of greed. Slaughtering its own for wealth and gains. Circling in an infinite loop. Until the song of the reaper rings its melody, the ode of tranquility. And immense greed for power evaporates into the fleeting wind. So shall the last breath be simple, filled with the sweetest dreams until it escapes. And dreams once end, the evil deeds start clawing with devouring hunger. Be your unfulfilled wishes of ambition, together with your calls for justice, suffocated by the purifying flame. They do not matter in the eyes of death, the overlord of life. And so I dictate, for every world, there will be retribution, a new beginning. Let ash and fire glow the brightest where cold, and ice resides in men and beast alike. Logan Meliar, +++. It was not poetic. For that, Logan had no brains. At least he thought so himself. He didn't even know why he was writing these words while thinking about the problems he had. He should be worrying about himself right now because he already lost his job a few weeks ago and was far behind in rent. This life where money dictated one's worth were depressing him. He would never have thought to end up as one of those poor beggars he sometimes met on the streets. But he ignored the problems of the world like any other person. Just smiling lightly and donating to let himself think that he did something worthy of calling himself the right person. All the while he knew otherwise. Of course, he wasn't a Samaritan. No one was free of sin. And he deceived people of that same money. But this time it didn't end up well, and he got himself caught up in a fiddle play of his superiors. He was blamed for misleading the clients and wasting their money, a perfect scapegoat. Now he was one of them. The people he ignored most of the time. Only now does he know just how such a life is. He is just living life from one day to the next. He was even lucky to have this roof still. But even that would be soon over. It was the last day he could sit in a warm home. And from then onwards he would live on the streets. Logan knew it would be over at that moment. Not even if a miracle happened would he be saved from this fate. Sure, he put some of his hopes into the last letter he received. It was from one of the companies that he applied to and went to a job interview. But it was a rejection. It was not just any kind, but the kind that broke his last bit of will. And that catapulted him straight into despair. Not everyone had an iron will. Right, that is why he was sitting around like this and started writing something that distracted him from all this bullshit. But at some point, it just made him angry about all the things in his life. He swept his arm over the table and threw everything down from it. The note softly fell from the table and just landed on the carpet. Logan himself lay his head on the table, just looking to the side and staring out the window. He could see the trickling of the rain outside. The sound of it hitting against the frame made his eyelids heavy, and he slowly drifted into his dreams. What he didn't know was that the paper that he threw aside started to burn and wreak chaos in his home. The whole apartment block started to catch on fire, and it spread out like a beast, swallowing everything around itself. Logan woke up while coughing. Only flames in the reflection of his eyes. The flames were burning brightly. He did try to escape immediately, but it was already too late at this moment. The fire surrounded him and cut off his escape routes. And like the messenger of death, the monoxide just did the rest. Losing all his strength after being suffocated, he stopped breathing altogether and collapsed. The light in his eyes was slowly fading. The apartment burned down swiftly and only would leave a grimy black place with his burned and charred corpse in it. It may as well just turn to ash. He didn't want to lose that last grip he had in life, but now it was over. The fire just swallowed him whole without any mercy. Everything faded in front of him into a blur. After some time he regained what seemed to be his consciousness. Logan was confused. Every memory of his death was still present. So what was this place? The afterlife. Looking around he saw massive pillars surrounding him, 7 on each side. The right ones were black, and the left ones were white. They all were directly positioned in a way that they led to a throne at the end of those pillars. Not knowing what to do, he started to walk forward. That was the moment he noticed something substantial was on his body. Looking downwards, he saw chains all over his body. They were even molten together with him at some places. "What is going on?" he asked in a swift breath. And without knowing when, a crisp voice answered his question. "Sinner of avarice, welcome to your tribunal." Logan looked around to find the source of the voice, but it seemed to come from everywhere. "Go up to your stand to receive your trial." When those words were said, a light rumble happened in the hall, and a stand was created as if he was in court. Still being confused, he just followed that order and walked to the stand. It's not like he could do anything else anyway. Reaching it, he stood there and awaited his judgment. He already heard the voice call him a sinner of greed. Ironic, while he was never rich and died as a poor man. Not as poor as some sad blokes, but still not rich. "So, how am I greedy?" he asked while standing trial in front of really no one but air. But just as he said those words, a being appeared on the black and white throne in front of him. It wore a white silk robe with some black accessories like its black boots and a black silk belt that held its outfit together. The being looked a lot like a Chinese minister from those warring times. That is how he would compare his clothing style. The face of it was not discernible, and only nothingness looked at him. "You are trialed for swindling people of their money for your gain. Is that not greed?" the being asked. "I only did my part of what I was asked of. The world I lived in is not exactly a cozy place," answered Logan. "And that gives you the right to trample others beneath you?" "No, but there is no other way. I couldn't change anything. If I am already greedy, then the world is already corrupted to its very being of existence." "What would change my outcome?" answered Logan. He was answering truthfully. He felt that lying would not work and only bring him harm. The being stared at him for a while. "If you had the power to change something, what would it be?" "The world itself. I would start eradicating those corrupt people and try to better the lives of the people." The being took out a paper after it heard his vigilante answer. It was his handwritten poem. "Very well. You shall amuse me. I will give you some of my power to build an army and will name you as my champion. I will send you to the world you know as Game of Thrones. I will await your return and see how you fared. That will be your trial. If you fail, you know the outcome. Until we meet again." The paper burned once more, and everything slowly faded into darkness right before his eyes. In the deepest darkness, he slowly awoke by the call of a voice. "Host has regained consciousness. Initiating Overlord system." What? The state a question in his mind. The Overlord system is the power that was bestowed by God Shurog upon Host. It lets Host summon an army to his aid to fulfill his goals. There are also other options as well. That is not what I meant. Where am I? Single quote. Host is. The scenery changed and a lake could be seen. A thick forest surrounded it. Nature in this world still claimed most of the planet's surface. On the shore of the lake, a man was throwing out his fishing rod to try and get something like a meal for himself. Waiting patiently for something to bite, he noticed something unusual at the surface of the lake. He squinted his eyes and tried to get a better look. But what he saw next shocked him and let a cold shudder run along his spine. It was a freaking corpse in the water. But what was even more surprising was that this corpse didn't float but slowly rose further and further out of the lake. At first, it was only its scalp, but then its cold and hollow eyes, and lastly its thin ghastly bones. Not long after its appearance, the corpse finally came ashore. The peasant that looked at it just pissed his pants already and didn't even think about running away for some reason. The corpse's gaze slowly shifted in the peasant's direction. Then some fire started to spread all around the dead body, and it charred the earth underneath it. The peasant now became panicky and saw how flesh began to move on the corpse, and a half-mangled face was restoring itself. Then a fiery gaze started to appear inside the skull of the now transparent undead creature. Right at that moment, the fear the peasant felt overcame the shock, and it was too much. He immediately started running away as fast as he could. He even left his fishing rod. The corpse still burned until a human shape restored itself to live, and at the end, one could finally discern who it was. It was Logan. He stood firm with his 1.82 meters height and raven black hair. His hollow eye sockets now vibrated with emerald green eyes that wandered about the scenery. His clothing was regular line clothing, both his pants and shirt. And minus the boots, there was not much else on his body. Good thing it was not wintering right now. But he also doubted that he would feel cold anyway. After looking after how the men run away, he walked over to the fishing rod that was left behind and threw it out again and sat down. So I am undead now? He asked in his mind. Host is blessed by the divine flame. You are the champion of God Shurog after all. Single quote. Would that not conflict with Relore? He asked about the actual Lord of Light in this world. The Lord of Light is only a deity and therefore under God Shurog in rank. Besides that, God Shurog has more divinities than just fire. I asked if there will be conflict, asked Logan once more and frowned a little. That is very likely so. With a sigh, he stayed silent for a while until he got curious about something. Show me what this Overlord system is all about. Single quote. Understood. These are the following commands. Status, inventory, skills, summons, diplomacy, buildings and lastly the shop. Single quote. Just like a game. Start from the first command and give me some more detailed explanation about summons, diplomacy, and buildings since the other ones are pretty obvious. Well, maybe tell me what currency the shop uses, he ordered. Understood. Status. Name. Logan Meliar. Age. 22. Immortal. Race. Human undead. Title. Champion of Shurog. Hollow. 0%. System level. 1. As you can see, there is only your necessary information. There are no real things like HP and MP and the likes. You would still have to be prepared to die if hit in your vitals. Then there is the hollow factor. It displays the amount of how empty you are. Inventory. It is empty. Wait, stop there. What do you mean with hollow factor? Asked Logan after noticing the system went on not explaining that hollow factor. Also, why did the system still explain his stuff even though he said only to get more details about specific commands? Right, host doesn't know yet. If host dies, the hollow factor increases. The more host accumulates that state, the less he becomes human. In the end, only an ashen husk would remain that would seek the warmth of a fire. Meaning at 100% host would succumb to the darkness and burn his last bit of the soul inside him. That means losing every bit of reason and sanity until enough sacrifices are collected to restore your soul. Hey, that is pretty important information, you damn thing. Okay, new order. Inform me about everything noteworthy in my commands. Anyway, is there a way to restore that factor if I die only once? With you telling me that it would need sacrifices to restore itself only means that there should be a way, right? Single quote. There is. Either absorb the soul of a living being on your own accord or buy a soul shard from the shop. I advise absorbing souls since a shard is very expensive. Since I am at that point right now. The shop uses merit points as currency. Killing things, leveling up and fulfilling randomly generated quests are granting those points. I am getting back to the soul part. For a full restoration, 2,500 souls from adult humans are needed. I should also mention that while battling and killing people, host does absorb souls automatically in a radius of 2 kilometers. But they are only worth half the amount because of their death. So host would need to take part in battlefields where 5,000 men died or suck the life force out of 2,500 humans to restore to full health. And how much of my soul will I lose after death? Single quote. That depends on the way host dies. The more brutal the way of death, the more energy is needed to resurrect host. Great, alright. No dying unless it is impossible to avoid. Well, I could use that as a trump card to fake my death. Continue. Single quote. Understood. Also, host should know that souls collected over the threshold of 0% are stored inside your body and can later be used in various other ways. Not dying has its benefits as well. Update. I will display the amount of souls host has collected in the status, and they will be found inside host his inventory for later use. I am moving on. Skills. Fishing beginner level 1. The art of fishing. The higher the expertise, the better the chance to get a big catch. Skills are divided into beginner, intermediate, advanced and master. Each stage has 10 levels. If host reaches the rank of master levels up to level 10, it changes to grandmaster. Practice your skills to become a powerful individual. Single quote. He was just dumbfounded by his first skill. He just threw out this rod out of boredom and because he wanted to chat with the system and that did gain him the skill. Damn it. Please inform me of new skills beforehand. Single quote. Understood. Summons. There are 2 categories here. There are your retinue and your army. Your escort is a lot stronger than your primary detachment. Your retinue could also follow you around as companions or command parts of your army. Note that your entourage has souls in them while your army is mostly controlled through the system. That makes them react to your actions, and even betrayal may occur. You could also turn people from this world into your retinue. Then they would regain their counterpart characters. To enlarge and upgrade your army, the higher the system level is, the more and better troops you can create in one go. It does also affect your retinue slightly. Well, ain't that a lot like these damn White Walkers? Commented Logan. Now. Host's assumption is correct. Moving on. Wait, how do I level you? Single quote. Host needs to gain experience and become stronger. The longer host uses the system, the stronger it becomes. See it as a power that slowly mixes with the laws of the world. Even just spending time doing nothing will accumulate experience over time. That is because the host is a part of the system. Any more questions regarding this matter? So you are saying I am an intruder in this world and slowly grow larger like cancer? Single quote. Opening square bracket ... Yes, Logan chuckled. So he was the bad guy here. Well, he did tell that entity Shurog that he would purify the corrupt. There were plenty of unscrupulous individuals in this world. That was for sure. Looks like he had a lot of work cut out for himself. But he also wondered what would happen after he becomes too powerful or loses his sanity forever. Or if those deities would start acting up. Right now they may not know of Logan's existence, but that didn't ensure the later events. And where there are deities, there also should be gods. Opening square bracket ... Diplomacy. Here all relationships are shown with the various noble houses you encounter. Depending on what you do, you may get favors or hatred against you. Choose your allies wisely. Buildings. If the host can gain land or conquer it, you could start building your kingdom. There are various options for buildings that could be developed to create a mighty empire. It could also be an option to play the Game of Thrones if host decides not to use his army. But host should be aware that human soldiers will have to be trained and such, and this path, in general, is very time-consuming. That was about all. Does host have any more questions? Not right now. Thanks for explaining everything. Oh, wait, do I need to eat? Single quote. Host does not need to eat or drink. But doing so would give a satiation buff that would provide benefits in some skills. The host should always consider. I see. Good. That is about all. Oh, I caught something. He thought and noticed a fish was on his hook squirming around. He tried to reel it in with this medieval damn rod that had no reel. Let's see if I can have some fun in Westeros. I doubt that I am in Essos right now. There are just too many lush forests around me. Single quote. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 26 comments, 0 vote. Sigil. Some time has passed while Logan began fishing at the lake. His initial encounter with civilization was soon to happen, and it would end up not being exceedingly pretty. It was after he had caught a few more fish and hauled them with him to sell later. What he required right now was at least some money for his travels that would follow. And he already knew that a village should be close by because of that peasant from earlier. No ordinary peasant would otherwise fish at a lake without some cart or the likes to transport the goods. He was confident he could gain some coin there. The sun was also already setting, and Logan had to secure a place to sleep and start thinking about his first moves after gaining some coin. But first things first, Logan started walking around the forest for quite some time until he saw some smoke rising into the heavens from afar. It was above a patch of a forested area. That was a great sign that the village was there. Not long after that and Logan finally entered the village. It is a very crudely built habitat and buildings were far apart from each other. It also was not that big of a place. There were maybe a few hundred men and women in this little settlement. Looking around for specific buildings, he saw what seemed to be a butcher's home. There was a person processing meats in the bright open. So he went there to try and sell the fish. It should be the right place for making such a trade. Greetings, said Logan with a warm smile to the butcher that stopped hacking the meat and stared at him in response. What is it, lad? He asked him back. This man was a lot older than him, seen by the patches of white in his hair. So Logan just ignored being called a lad out of manner. I got some fish here. I have freshly caught them. So I thought about selling them here. Would you buy them? Logan was going straight to the point and tried to sell the fish. The butcher looked at Logan and inspected the fish he was now showing him. About 25 fish were hanging on little strings bundled together. The gloss in their eyes is still good. All right, I will buy them. I will give you 50 copper pennies. 2 for each fish. 3 copper each, bargained Logan immediately without hesitating. One should know a loaf of bread was already worth 3 coppers. This butcher was trying to get the best out of this. And fish and meat were always more valuable than grain. Especially since bread in this era of time was as hard as a stone. Not going to happen, kid, denied the butcher immediately. But Logan didn't give up quite yet and thought about how to deal with this butcher. Looking at the meats, he saw some of them being dried up into jerky. They were good rations and would come in handy later. 3 coppers and I buy some of that dried meat over there. Logan pointed at it, and the butcher looked at the pieces he wanted. Since he was mentioning the currency, with the 75 copper coins that Logan wanted for the fish, he would gain 1 silver coin and 25 copper coins from this trade. But together with the dried meat, he would end up with 62 copper and a halfpenny. The halfpenny was worth half a copper coin. The value amount of the different coins could be counted as followed: 2 halfpennies made 1 copper. 56 copper would round up to 1 silver coin, and 210 silver coins would become 1 shiny gold coin. Of course, the gold value had some small differences between kingdoms, but generally, it was about the same amount. HMPF, alright. I will purchase them for that price. They are at least very fresh, and some of them seem relatively big, snorted the butcher and would pay him the amount he wanted. Simultaneously, he indicated to him where he could place the fish and started to prepare the money and meat. Skill, bargaining, gained. Bargaining beginner, level 1. This is the art of buying things without opening your wallet too much. The higher the skill, the better you can bargain with people about prices. Skill, haggling, gained. Haggling beginner, level 1. The art of selling things to get more money out of them. The higher the skill, the better you can supply your goods for horrendous prices. Logan placed the fish to the designated area and took the money and meat the butcher handed over. One more question, sir. Is there an inn in this village? Asked Logan now. I already wondered, so you are a new face around here. What brings you here into our little village? Answered the butcher with a somewhat suspicious tone now. I am on a pilgrimage, so I go from one place to another. I never really know where I am. Logan chuckled a little. Asking the locals is always the best way to get information, no? Logan was still smiling at the butcher and didn't bother about being doubted. It was a normal reaction to be certain. And he also lied, so the butcher had all right to be suspicious. The butcher was somewhat bewildered by the answer. He was somehow convinced that the man was not lying to him. Well, lad, there is a tavern to the left there at the end of the dirt road. They also give people a sleeping place if you ask them. But don't go making trouble. I don't want to regret having told you its location. It was the answer Logan wanted and also a little warning as well. Not going to happen. I will be leaving soon anyway. Thank you for everything, said Logan and thanked the butcher. Then he walked to the left side where he was led. It didn't take long and he soon came across a building where he could hear more noise coming from than from the other ones around it. Entering regularly through the door like any normal person and looking around, Logan saw some people sitting merrily around tables with meals and drinks. Enjoying their time. Some of them started to look at him for a moment and went back to their business after only seeing some average guy enter. Luckily Logan was dressed very commonly and looked like a poor traveler. So he didn't get much attention. Moving on, he sat at a free seat, and a tavern maiden with long brown hair approached him after she served another cup of ale to other customers. What may I bring you, sir? She asked politely. A warm meal and ale, please. And a place to stay the night. Logan's green eyes traveled over the woman's body from the bottom to the top. He had to admit this woman displayed an attractive figure. After ogling her up for a while, he stayed put at her eyes and ultimately replied to her question. The maiden was surprised how handsome this man was after having a closer look. She was even stunned for a second. And a slight blush appeared while she perceived him looking at her body just a moment ago. But she came back to her senses and smiled in acknowledgement after his words. A hearty meal, an ale and a place to stay would amount to 12 copper, sir. Logan nodded in agreement and handed her his silver coin. The tavern maiden took the money and walked away to prepare everything. It didn't take long, and she brought him his meal and beverage. She also placed the change into a little bag for him. Logan was a little surprised that his money came back with a money pouch now. So he looked at the woman with a raised brow. I noticed that sir carries his money in his pockets. It is much better to carry it in a pouch. This one is a gift. It is not of high quality, so it is cheap. Don't worry. Now, enjoy your meal. She smiled at him and explained why she did it. Then with a bow, she was about to leave. It looks like this woman took a liking to him. So Logan smiled back and thanked her. Thank you. That is very kind of you. The tavern maiden walked away very happily and from time to time still glanced over to him while he was devouring his meal. What Logan had to scrutinize was the quality of the food. It tasted somewhat bland. It looks like he had to invent or spur on development in this area at some point. And another thing was there was no real cutlery in this era. There was one wooden spoon for the soup, but it made the bland soup taste even weirder. It now had a woody aftertaste. But maybe it was because Logan was undead now. So he just swallowed his pampered heart and started to break apart the bread and finish his meal. While he was eating, he could listen in on some conversations. And just as fate would have it, a peasant was talking with other people around a table about a certain event. Stop spouting nonsense, you idiot. Who would believe you such a thing? I tell you it is real. There was a corpse crawling out of the lake. It burst into flames and then a man appeared. The devil, I tell ya. And you also want to tell us now that this corpse, or the devil as you call it, just let you run? The men remained silent because he could not argue against those words. Logan had a bright smile on his face while he listened. So rumors already spread to some extent. Then the tavern doors opened again, and a few shady-looking people entered. To be precise, it was 8 men. What one could immediately see was they were equipped with swords around their waists and had leather armor surrounding their bodies. They weren't ordinary people. Even the atmosphere in the tavern immediately became colder. Logan only looked up through his peripheral vision without raising his head. Hey, why the gloomy looks? Did you all not miss us? Said a guy who seemed to be the leader of this little gang. It looked like those people were already here once and that it was not a joyful meeting. They went ahead and walked to a broader table where they stared down at some people that were sitting there already. Get your asses down from there. Now, one of the bandits ordered, and even threw the meals the people had from the table to the ground. The people had no other choice but to obey. Sitting down, they started laughing profusely like a group of hyena. Hey, tavern bitch, bring us ale, shouted the leader again. The tavern maiden that brought Logan his meal was afraid and hesitantly approached. No wonder about that, since what those guys did was very primitive, even barbaric. Look at this bitch, she is so shy that she hides. Come to think of it, we haven't seen you around here. You are new, and your body looks very nice. Come here. The guy that started talking grabbed her and pulled her to the group. They smacked her butt, grabbed and jerked her on their laps, and even started fondling her breasts as if she was their toy. They enjoyed humiliating a woman, and Logan watched all this with cold eyes. Merely remembering the interaction with her from a moment ago made him angry. That those bandits were ravaging such a kind woman was enough reason to get rid of these scum. Hey, system, can you summon my army outside the village and transfer them here? Single quote. Host, that is possible. Should I activate the summoning? Do note that these soldiers will stay with you until you cancel the summon or they die. Do it. Single quote. Affirmative. I am activating the summons. Summons. Current evaluation. Little bandit group. Army. Retinue. 0. Land. 10 light infantry, 10 swordsman infantry, intermediate level 1. Fleet. No fleet. Summoning 10 swordsmen. Logan remained silent and waited. Most people even tried avoiding this out of fear and left the tavern in a haste. With every second passing, these guys became more shameless, and the anger Logan felt was building up. The tavern maiden already had her clothes ripped apart. Her body was entirely open for all people to see. And only just when these guys nearly raped the maiden in front of everyone, another 10 people entered the tavern. They were all equipped with light chainmail armor and iron swords. Their helmets concealed their faces somewhat. The single thing that was instantly seen was the sigil on their round wooden shields and surcoats they wore over the chainmail. It was a fiery red eagle spreading its wings with 3 black-colored svarga over its head like a crown. The symbol for the god Shurog. Logan only snorted slightly after sighting it. So his sigil was already predetermined. At least it was not half bad. The bandits immediately got agitated and looked at the new people that entered. But what they could not know were these soldiers already had their swords unsheathed and approached them with the intent to kill. Some of the bandits could unsheath and raise their swords trying to defend themselves, but in the end, the bandits were overrun by this kind of sneak attack from his soldiers. That's what happens when you concentrate on wielding your dicks more than your swords. You won't have the time to react. If it was any other time and Logan wouldn't be so angry, he would start laughing at those guys that fought with their pants down. But right now he just looked at it with a gaze of deserved judgment. It didn't take very long, and the last guy got his head decapitated. With that, every single one of the bandits was mercilessly killed without exception. And no soldier of his got remotely hurt. System level up. Gained 8 souls. The people in the tavern were all frightened and thought they would die as well, but the soldiers sheathed their swords, and one of them even approached Logan. He saluted in front of him. It was an apparent salute. The soldier placed his sword hand that was made into a fist to the left side of his chest and remained straight like a tree, looking at Logan. Logan looked back at him and slowly stood up from his chair. Then he approached the soldier and patted his left shoulder once. With that, the soldier moved again and left the tavern together with the others. After his little army, that was more of a bandit group it seems, left the tavern, only then did Logan approach the tavern maiden that was still pretty shocked by all these events. Her teary face still was present, but, to his surprise, there was also a determined glimmer in her expression. He put on a warm smile on his face. "I hope you are well. Scum like these should never roam the lands." His words were right, no mercy for the cruel. The maiden only reacted with a dazed look at first, but she soon got tears in her eyes again and started crying loudly. The other people in the tavern equally were surprised by that. All immediately had a thought in their heads. A noble. This guy was a noble in disguise. He saved us. But what made that thought vanish was the next action Logan did. He started searching the dead bodies and took all the money that they had on themselves. There was not much to be found. These guys were terrible and miserable at the same time. All in all, he now had 13 silver coins and 34 copper pennies. He also took off one of their swords and hung it around his waist. Now he had a weapon to use. He should train with it later. A bandit. He is a bandit himself. That was what the people believed right now after observing his actions. Their opinions changed pretty instantly. Only empathy towards the poor woman remained. "Where can I sleep for the night?" he asked the tavern owner after going back to him. After all, he did pay for a night. The tavern owner looked at him with sweat trickling down his forehead. Looking at the corpses that were still lying around in his tavern, he felt like messing around with this guy was an ill omen. But he still had the feeling he could communicate with him usually. "It is upstairs. Can I request your lordship to take care of the deceased?" answered the owner and also asked about the corpses. Logan looked back at the corpses and nodded. For a brief moment, Logan walked outside the tavern to talk with his soldiers and returned merely to go upstairs to his room and get some sleep. His soldiers came back inside as well and picked up the corpses. They hauled them outside where they ignited them with fire to not spread diseases. At least that was what someone from Logan's world would think. But when nothing but white powdery ash remained of them, it was doubtful if that was still the case. Logan was unkind enough not to allow them a burial. And he, under no circumstances, would carry out such a thing for such scum. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 16 comments 0 vote. Night training. Logan slept very well and felt unbelievably invigorated considering the bed that he used was somewhat hard. He guessed the filling in the bed was lower quality like straw or something. But that was a given in the time Logan lived now. Just another matter he should take care of later. There was no doubt there was no bed without higher standards. He saw enough of them in the show. Besides that, he also didn't bother about the events that took place the day prior. He killed a few bandits, and he was not even remotely fazed by the gory picture the bodies portrayed when his soldiers were finished slashing at them. Maybe he was already just too used to such scenes. After all, he saw it pretty often in movies and television. The only real thought he spent on them was what use they still could have. And after cleansing them from their worldly possessions, he could care less about them rotting. That is if not for the tavern owner asking to get it cleaned. He had to admit that he thought he would not sleep well or something else would come up and bother him. But there was nothing of the sorts. It made him question his moral compass somewhat. What if he loses all his feelings and emotions? No, that couldn't be, for anger was still present when he saw the maiden being raped. After picking up his stuff, he went down the stairs and arrived back at the tavern. If one considered the way this tavern was built and looked, it could very efficiently function as an inn if it were any bigger, that is. Logan looked around and already saw the owner and tavern maiden doing their work as usual. The only change from yesterday was that they had a lot fewer customers at the moment, and some of the old faces even gave him weird glances. They were not daring to remain on him when he looked back to those people. He just shrugged it all off as them being too intimidated from the event yesterday. So Logan just sat down at a table and waited. The eerie quiet atmosphere was somewhat reminiscent of those bandits now. The tavern maiden looked at him and had a warm smile on her face. She approached him to take his orders. She was not even bothering about what the others thought at that moment about her. "Good morning, sir. What can I serve this time?" she asked him and waited for his answer. Logan looked at her and saw how she was in a good mood. It made him smile to see her being happy again. So his little action saved someone from a pretty miserable fate. Was he a hero? Maybe in her eyes, but when he had to answer that question himself, it would be no, he wasn't. "Good morning. The same as yesterday and some of that chicken, please," he answered her and pointed at the grilled chicken over the flame. The maiden nodded at him, told the price being 26 copper, and took the money that Logan handed her again. But before she left, she turned around and whispered something in his ear. "Thank you, my lord." With those words, she went off to get his order. Logan only looked after her in surprise. It has been a while since he was thanked sincerely. It made him smile unconsciously. While waiting, he took some time to look at the changes in his system. "Hey, system, are you awake?" "I am always awake, host." "Good, then go ahead and tell me what your level up did for you." "The level up progressed the Overlord system to level 2. With that, host can now summon 10 more soldiers of your liking. The host can choose between swordsmen, spearmen and archers. More elaborate units like cavalry and the navy are only available later when the system leveled up more. That is about it. Well, assign them to 5 swordsmen and 5 archers. Don't need spearmen right now. But going melee completely is not good. I will need to hunt. With archers that will be possible, no. That is correct. The host can use archers as hunters. And answering the previous question, host can also summon his first retinue now. The first retinue is a knight class. Knights are potent fighters in close and ranged combat. They are very versatile and masterful in many types of weaponry like sword, shields, spears, lances, as well as bows and throwing knives. They also can be used in tourneys. That didn't answer my question. Does your level up only influence the army? No, the level also influences the items available in the shop, and the buildings host can build in his kingdom. But since host does neither have a great title nor holds land of his own, I deemed it not worthy of mention. I guess you were right. About that knight, what if I recruit someone from Westeros and make him my retinue? Will he learn all skills and replace the knight? Opening square bracket ... The host may have misunderstood something. Living people that host gains as a retinue will not inherit skills from the system. Nor will they replace the available escort. Then how does it work? In case of host wanting to make someone your retinue, it goes as stated by the tradition of medieval times. The host can give said knight a squire and let him train that person into another knight. It takes about 5 years to complete the training depending on the potential of the squire. After that, the system will acknowledge the person as your entourage. But host should be aware that the death of that person will remain permanent until the training is finished. What do you mean until it is finished? Are knights gaining some trait after they finished their training? Correct. You may compare it to relore his champions. Your trained retinue can be revived as long as host is willing to sacrifice some of his soul or use collected souls. To make this option viable, the cost is only put at 50% of host his soul. The higher the system level, the less will the price become. I see. Good to know. Now I understand what you mean by betrayal may occur. Correct. The system will never betray host. But if host surrounds himself with snakes, then even the system cannot do anything about it. But didn't you tell me my retinue has souls? Yes and no. The created retinue will have loyal souls, but the revived ones have their own. Let me make an example. If host were to resurrect Jon Snow before Relordes, then he will become your retinue automatically. But because he still has his thoughts and moral code, he may not agree with your actions and defect. Wouldn't that be stupid, since he would lose the benefits that I give him? Single quote. He would not care since he lives. The system cannot take the life back it bestowed upon individuals, since they are part of it from then on. But those traitors will be flagged, and once they die they will be sent to purgatory. Whoa, easy there. I understand it now. Well, it looks like certain actions have certain benefits. I could make myself a powerful army with training people. They would very likely be loyal to me if I pick the right kind of people. But it would take years to get a high enough amount. Reviving people sounds easy to do, and it would be in a fast fashion. On the other hand, it probably also comes with costs, I presume. And those people may be treacherous. And lastly, creating system-controlled souls sounds the best, but it has its drawbacks that there are so few available. Single quote. Correct. Just when he wanted to continue, the tavern maiden returned with his meal and put it in front of him on the table. Logan flinched a little since he was in thought and looked at her. He nodded with a smile and started to eat. What he didn't expect was that he got company by the maiden. She just sat down at his table across himself and stared at him. Logan got confused and stopped his movements. Is something the matter? He asked her. She darted around with her eyes when he asked her this question. Then her gaze went to the door of the tavern for a quick moment and back to him. I wanted to ask something. Does your lordship travel to the tourney that will be held soon? Tourney? They are holding something like that, he asked in response to her question. But no, I am just traveling the lands. Things like tournaments are something for knights and those that want to flounder their wealth. Why, are you interested in them? The tavern maiden hesitated. I was just wondering because your lordship looks to have his guards with him. And the tournament in Harrenhal is being held soon. Therefore I thought it would be your destination. Logan smiled and picked up the spoon and tried to get a mouthful of soup. I am no noble, you know. You also didn't answer my question. For me you are. She paused and smiled back. And does not everyone love the stories of brave knights fighting to show their prowess? My father was a soldier in his younger times. He managed to get the attention of a knight and be accepted as his squire. He always used to tell me so many things. That watching one of those tourneys was something beautiful. Listening to her story, he now knew the reason why she was so interested. Without noticing, he lowered the spoon in his hands and just grabbed the ale. It looks like the conversation would go on for a while. Not exactly the best time to eat. Then your father must be a splendid knight himself, I presume. The maiden stayed quiet for a second and looked solemn. He used to. That is until we lost everything when he died. We had to suffer a little bit, but my mother and I somehow still managed to come by with the savings we had. This town became our home until I was the only one left. So that is why I am thankful that you saved me. I don't know how I could face my mother in the afterlife. I probably would have just ended my life myself if I were disgraced like that. Logan sighed a little. He wasn't the right person to get confronted with sad things like that. So you are from a fallen noble family. Knights were minor nobles after all. And in this era women had nothing to inherit. It was already somewhat of a feat that Brienne of Tarth managed to become a knight. But even she had a great background backing her. If you were a peasant and had no proper family lineage for at least a few hundred years back, then you had nothing when the holder of the great title died without a son. For here was not Dorne and no woman inherited any titles. Yes, she answered back. How come you are telling me all this? He asked her now. What makes you believe I care that much? The question was bold and truthful. He wondered why this woman was now so carefree around him. Would you otherwise have saved me if you didn't care at all? She rebuked with a question of her own. Logan snorted a little bit. Good argument. But what if I just found you attractive and was just after your body? He said while taking a sip of his ale. Then I would give myself to you. Hearing that answer, Logan choked a little bit on his beverage. He didn't expect her to answer that boldly herself. So he placed the jug down and stared at her. She became somewhat nervous after he looked at her and didn't say anything. His green eyes were fixed on her, and she thought that they seemed to penetrate her. His eyes were a lush green, deep and intense. Just like lavish green grass. But she also felt that if she would go beyond that green shine, there would only be a ravenous flame burning and consuming everything. It's not like anyone would want me after that accident, She tried to explain herself and blushed a little bit after noticing that he still was not saying anything. "Your name?" asked Logan and interrupted her. "What? I asked for your name. What is it?" He repeated his words for her. Vilaya Kentla, your lordship." She looked at him with a puzzled look. "All right, Vilaya, I will call you V. I will give you a proposition now. It will be up to you to accept it or not. Do you want to become my knight?" His question was stated, and he waited for an answer while he started to eat a little. And just as he thought the question surprised her. She thought about it for a while until her facial expression became determined. "Yes, your lordship, I want to become a knight." Logan just smiled. "All right, that is settled then. Talk with the tavern owner that you will be traveling with me from now on. We will meet the one in charge of your training outside. It looks like our next destination will be that tourney of yours. So that you get a feeling for them. And see for what they are," he added in his thoughts. "System, summon a knight and accept Vilaya as a squire. And also add the other soldiers to my already summoned ones. Single quote. As you wish. Summoning army. Summoning knight. Knight William Meliar created. Age 42. Since this is the first created retinue, a boost in skill is gifted. Level up. William Meliar ascended to Grand Knight class. Skill level rose to advanced level 5 in swordsmanship, shielding, spearmanship, axemanship, knifemanship, archery, horse riding, armor proficiency, footwork, pugilism and bodyguard. Acquired Grandmaster level skill mentoring. System level up. Congratulations to gaining a Grand Knight and Squire. 10 more soldiers available. Just summon another 5 swordsmen and archers, commented Logan in his mind and was bewildered about this event. But he knew that later he wouldn't get such a capable knight again. Understood. V smiled from one ear to another after she was accepted to become a knight and ran straight to the tavern owner to discuss things with him. Looks like she had this planned out herself to some degree. And it was not every day that one got such an opportunity. Logan only shook his head in amusement. "By the way, can I see her status?" Single quote. "Yes, that is possible. Name, Vilaya, V. Kentla. Age, 19, mortal. Race, human. Class, squire. Title, none. Skill, overall beginner level 1. Skills, pugilism, beginner level 1. Swordsmanship, beginner level 1. Shielding, beginner level 1. Spearmanship, beginner level 1. Axemanship, beginner level 1. Knifemanship, beginner level 1. Archery, beginner level 1. Horse riding, beginner level 1. Armor proficiency, beginner level 1. Footwork, beginner level 1. That is all. Wait, why does she have so many skills? Not even I have them. Come to think, and I was about to ask if I could get some training from my Grand Knight as well." Single quote. "That is possible, but unlike V, you will not receive a general boost in your skills over the time of training. She gets that boost since she is a squire. So she will automatically at least reach intermediate in all professions. Host, on the other hand, needs to train them. Here is the status of your knight that teaches her. Status of William Meliar. Name, William Meliar. Age, 42, immortal. Race, human undead. Class, Grand Knight. Title, Knight of Shurog. Skill, overall advanced level 5. Skills, pugilism, advanced level 5. Swordsmanship, advanced level 5. Shielding, advanced level 5. Spearmanship, advanced level 5. Axemanship, advanced level 5. Knifemanship, advanced level 5. Archery, advanced level 5. Horse riding, advanced level 5. Armor proficiency, advanced level 5. Footwork, advanced level 5. Instincts, advanced level 5. Bodyguard, advanced level 5. Mentoring, Grandmaster. Please keep in mind that V can become even better than William in all active skills. William only serves as a template to what extent she can grow. The passive skills like instincts and mentoring will not be taught. How good someone can explain and transfer knowledge and skills to others still depends on both parties, and she would have to learn that later with her own squire. And instincts need to be sharpened in battle. Current estimation of her future ability would be a proper knight with at least an overall skill level of intermediate 5. Just for information's sake, William was an elite knight with an overall of advanced level 1 before the ascension. God damn it, can I change myself into a squire, please? Well, never mind. Hey, why does he have the same last name as me? Single quote. To make it believable, the system created an uncle for Host so that Host doesn't need to become a squire himself to another knight. This will also somewhat improve your little charade of being a noble when you want to partake in the tourney or mingle around nobles. Alright then, let's see how far I can get until we reach Harrenhal, he thought, and now finally started eating that damn chicken. It already became somewhat cold, but it sure had a good taste. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 21 comments, 0 vote. Future potential. Pushing the tavern door open, Logan stretched himself while letting the sunshine fall on his face. After his little exercise, he took in a deep breath of air. He immediately notices a vulgar smell drifting into his nose. He looked around and saw some people throwing out the content of what seemed to be buckets full of excrements into what looked like a pit full of shit and water mixed in with dirt. A deep frown surfaced on his face. Disgusting. Damn this smell. It wasn't here yesterday, but at least they know how to dispose of it. Hopefully, they bury that. I already wondered if I would see people throwing shit out of windows. Single quote. Logan tried to ignore anything related to the smell and walked further away from the tavern in the direction of his army that was now waiting a little bit outside the village along the forest area. Walking with him at his side was now Vi, that had become his squire after the tavern owner finally accepted her leave. The tavern owner did so with concern, but in the end, he also knew it was better for her to leave and do what she liked. Moving forward for a while, they finally came to a place where a few soldiers were resting. It looked like his summoned soldiers still behaved somewhat like ordinary people to camouflage their true identity of simple pawns. Or were they? They even seemed to have conversations. Almost even fooling himself with the charade if he didn't know any better. Not only that, but they also set up a little camp around a campfire and were doing various works like maintaining their blades or feeding the horses. Yes, there were horses. What surprised Logan most was that there were 6 transportation carts with 2 horses each and another 2 horses that had saddles on them. Logan looked at them a little bit longer and inspected them further. 5 of the carts were pretty simple and had only some shields and other weapons on them, whereas the last carriage had a lot more on it. From his guess, the items looked like tents and other stuff that was needed for basic survival needs. Things like rations and water, as he could also see a soldier taking some water into his field bottle after draining a barrel a little bit. System, what is that? Single quote. That is your army. Not that. I mean the stuff around my army. Are you summoning extra stuff with my people? Logan asked again after being somewhat annoyed of the system only giving him the most necessary answer. Host forgets that his soldiers also had armor and weapons when they charged into the tavern. Sure, they are a little under-equipped with low-quality items, but better than nothing. I had guessed that Host was already aware of that. Well, to answer your question, the system is summoning transportation means and equipment and other things like ammunition for the army. There are 5 carts for the troops and 1 cart for provisions and equipment. The 2 saddled horses are Host's and William's steeds for personal use. Vi will only get 1 for herself after she becomes a full-fledged knight retinue of Host. Wow, that is handy. Also, I noticed how you deviate from Host to you. You can address me personally. Confirmed. I will address you as such. To be truthful, I was getting annoyed, and it became a pain in the ass to stay formal. Logan smiled at those words and Vi noticed it. Little did she know that he was reacting to his system. Your lordship, is this your escort? You got so many men with you? Was what she asked after looking to the people camping now. She took his smile as a signal that those people were his. And luckily for him, they were precisely that. Stop using that title. Just call me Logan. Right, I haven't told you my name yet. I am Logan Meliar. He answered back and glanced at her. She looked back at him and thought a little. Sir Logan it is then. Logan only sighed at her answer. Fine, suit yourself. Just when he said that, another man in full armor approached them. He glanced shortly at Vi and bowed slightly when he came to a halt right in front of him. My lord. Logan inspected the man that stood in front of them. He noticed the little gray patches of hair at the sides of his ears in the otherwise black hair. His looks were somewhat middle-aged, and from that Logan could judge him to be somewhat experienced. And by that, he could reasonably say that this was very likely his Grand Knight William. Uncle, don't be so formal. It is all right. This here is Vilia Kentla. I call her Vi. I accepted her as my future knight. I think she has potential. So I hope you can teach her well. said Logan with a smile and slight grin. Then he looked back to Vilaya. V, this is my uncle, William Meliar. He is my right hand and therefore your superior. He is also the knight that you will learn under. William had a little goatee which he was caressing right now while inspecting this woman called V. V, on the other hand, got somewhat nervous after seeing this tall, muscular knight stand in front of her and stare holes into her. Logan was also a little bit intrigued as well while looking at William his armor. This armor, system, are you still hiding something from me? Single quote. What do you mean, Logan? The armor William is wearing is the Ursine Bear armor from the Witcher series. It is even the master-crafted version. Single quote. That is correct. Why would you be surprised? This world has magic in it, and monsters are living here as well. Just because they are not shown does not mean they don't exist. Such an armor suits a Grand Knight. So you are telling me that my Grand Knight is a Witcher? Single quote. No, he is not a Witcher. If you want to get one you would need to buy a Witcher voucher in the shop. Logan got a little bit euphoric, and his heart skipped a little beat. He is accelerating by a bit. Just the thought about it made his little nerd heart happy. Yes, he loved that franchise and getting that answer made him also wonder what else he could get from that shop. While he thought that he also saw William poke V at various places on her body to test her muscles, that nearly brought him to laughter, so he tried to suppress a chuckle. William even touched her breasts. What did this guy do that for? To see if they would become a burden. That somewhat calmed him down, and he only shook his head lightly. After he got a clear head again, he needed to get out some more information while he was at it. So why then exactly this armor? Single quote. Our God is the father of all gods. The Slavic people mostly worshipped him. Does that answer your question? So you mean to say that because he is a Slavic god it also explains why he would give me powers to summon Slavic legends? Alright, I guess it is like that. After all, he also already chose my sigil. Single quote. Anyway, are Witcher strong here? I presume such a voucher is probably very expensive if they are. Single quote. Yes, for strong. Expensive. That is always debatable. Witchers are master-level warriors with overall skill level ranging from advanced to master ranks. Geralt of Rivia at his last breath of life would be considered a grandmaster. And I am not talking about the one that died by a pitchfork. Single quote. I see. Wait, if there are monsters here then shouldn't there be an organization already existing that takes care of them? Logan was curious about that little fact he nearly ignored. Would gulls and the like not become major pests and problems if there are no professional monster hunters? And why don't I ever remember seeing them in the show? Single quote. Think about the magical creatures existing here like Wyvern and even the White Walkers. There are even dire wolves and dark specters. Or even the children of the forest. Many monsters are living in this world. Just because they were not all shown does not mean they don't exist. Nobles were mostly not the ones that had to dirty their hands with it. That is why they started to ignore it and downplay the threats they were. To come back to your first question, people take care of it themselves. You don't need specialized people for every problem. Take the ballistae into consideration that were later created to counter Daenerys her wyvern pets. There are enough ways to combat monsters. Witchers are just one of them. Anyway, you still could introduce that craft and build a school for witchers. With that, you would more effectively fight monster problems. The common folk would love the extra care. It will also become a source of income if other countries take their services. But do note that you need a master witcher that can lead that school. Why? Just before he could end his thought. Very well, you seem to be a fine girl. Alright, I will try my best. But don't expect too much, Logan. It came from William and Logan put his attention back to them, completely stopping his next question to the system. V smiled from one ear to another. Thank you, my lord. I will do my best. She said to Logan once more. Sir William, I will not let you down. I promise, stated V with determination to William as well. William smiled at her softly after seeing her determined attitude and hearing her words. Sir, that sure brings back memories. I haven't heard that in ages now. His gaze was a little bit defocused as if he was reminiscent of something. Logan wondered about what exactly the system gave William as a background. And himself to that point as well. All he could guess is that he once was a noble of some sorts as well. It is all good and well, but as soon as one of those maesters looks into some books they will know that he deceived people. There is, after all, no noble house with the name of Meliar. So, where is our next destination going to be? The last bandits we followed were stupid enough to show themselves right at the village we made our stop, added William now and looked at Logan. We are free folk, uncle. We go wherever we please. By some lucky encounter, I found out that there is going to be a bigger tourney in Harrenhal. We should mix ourselves in and grab that prize money. It would stock up our funds quite well, don't you agree? We could probably gain a few hundred gold coins. Logan looked at V while mentioning the encounter and explained his reasoning to William. And I also think it is a good opportunity to let V see what a tourney is all about. That sounds like an excellent idea, nodded William in agreement. Free folk? Asked V now with a slightly frowned face. Logan and William both looked at her and saw her facial expression. Are you perhaps thinking about wildlings right now? Alright, first lesson, widen your horizon. Start thinking on your own and don't take every word said by others for a golden coin until you see it for yourself. We are free folk, men and women without a banner and no land of their own. Kings and lords call us many names. Sellswords and mercenaries if we have not committed any crimes, or outlaws and bandits if we do live a criminal lifestyle. Well, there is also a name I would say fits us best. That is if I had to choose one. A brotherhood without banners. Logan smiled a little, but it is all the same in the end. While he explained that to her, he also had his thoughts on that subject. Widen your horizon, huh? Wyvern, I guess it is true since they have their wings around their forelegs and not like real dragons is an extra pair of limbs. I should start to see things differently as well. Single quote. Vilia still looked somewhat concerned and looked at William and the soldiers. Logan saw that and smiled once again. He put a hand on her shoulder. It was your own decision. I told you, didn't I? I am no such thing as a lord. After saying those words, he started to walk to his men. But, V tried to say something but was interrupted by William. Enough, you will soon see what Logan meant by his words. Just know that we are not like bandits that terrorize the downtrodden. Now, let's get you some fitting clothes first. With that get-up you can't train well, said William and pushed her to the cart with all the wares. While both of them did their thing, Logan inspected his soldiers now a little bit closer. Sitting down at the campfire, he received some salutes and nods from them. Logan could see that a few of the swordsmen were female. The same applied to his archers. There were about 2 women among them. System, what is the ratio to male and female in my army? Single quote. About 8. 2 in favor of men. Should I change the ratio to make them all male or female? No, that ratio is good enough. I expected the army to consist of only male people. I would have changed that. Single quote. Your Highness, that woman you brought with you, is she going to join us? Asked a soldier now that was sitting across himself on the other side of the campfire. That somewhat surprised Logan at first, and he looked at the soldier. Inspecting him, he smiled and then changed his gaze towards William and V. Yes, she will join us. She is going to be trained into a knight. So she is going to be your superior when her training is done, he told him, and his reaction was a typical confirming nod. The others started whispering something. Before he could try and ask what they were whispering about, William and V came back and joined them. Logan looked at Vilia and saw her dressed in very tight-fitting leather trousers matched with knee-high leather boots and a loose white shirt on her upper body that went down to about her waist. It was fastened with a belt around her waist and some leather armbands on her wrists so that it didn't fly in the wind and hinder her movements much. The waist belt also had a function so that her sword could dangle with its scabbard right at that position. It reminded Logan a lot of Ciri's outfit. Well, minus the high heels at the boots and the too extravagant cleavage that is. But sure enough, V had a beautiful body as well. Her hazelnut brown hair tied together into a ponytail to the back had its charm. She just stood there and rubbed the round pommel with her fingers while holding the handle of the sword. That indicated her excitement to have been given her outfit an own sword. Usually, squires did not get their sword right at the start. Logan smirked a little when he noticed her behavior. Well, look at who finally looks like a warrior now. A damn fine one to say the least. V blushed a little after his remark. Thank you, but these clothes are a little bit weird. I will need some time to get used to them. Are you talking about the undergarments or the slim-fitted trousers? Chuckled William a little from behind her. He was not the one that dressed her, but he knew what she probably meant. V frowned at his words and looked at Logan if he heard that embarrassing thing. She was talking about the undergarments. It was a thing she never really was aware of. At first, she even wondered if those things were clothes for nobility, but the swordswoman that helped her change her clothes told her that in their culture it was very typical to wear these under every clothes. And they had their advantages. She felt so much more protected in some way, and the clothes didn't rub her anymore. "Men, do treat our new sister well," said Logan while looking back to his soldiers and pretending not to have heard their little conversation. It let V breath out in relief somewhat. "Of course, my lord. That little chick will be protected until it can raise its feeble wings on its own," answered a female soldier from the sides and snickered. It was the woman that helped her get dressed. The others also started to laugh lightly after hearing her words. V, on the other hand, frowned and felt being treated wrongly. "Chick. I am not that weak." "Haha, but it just suits you fine." Logan laughed lightly as well. "From now on you are our chicken knight." "What? Why?" asked V back and was despairing on the title she now got from him. It just reminds me of the chicken from the tavern." After his answer, he looked at her and saw how unhappy she was. He sighed and glanced at William. He received a nod from him in response. "We may be bannerless, but we do have a sigil. Most would see it as a crimson eagle. But that is not entirely the truth. In legend, there exists a bird of holy flame. Its name is the immortal phoenix. You may already have heard its legend. It burns eternally until its life extinguishes. And from its ashes, a new life will rise once more. It is burning brightly as before. You are still young and therefore inexperienced. Show us that you deserve to be called a phoenix among eagles," explained William with a friendly tone to her. "And if you cannot become a phoenix then just become a cockatrice. A chick has many ways to improve," added Logan with a grin. And with that V somehow believed them and ended up with the title of Chicken Knight. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 35 comments 0 vote. Tireless. Moving along a road, Logan and his little army were having a somewhat comfortable journey. V revealed that the road they used right now was one of the main roads from the continent. It was also known as the King's Road. Logan had some specific thoughts about its naming. After all, the other roads had names like Rose Road, River Road, and Gold Road. They all lead to each one of the other major houses. The only one excluded in that count being the Martel in Dornay. And why was it that this road was named King's Road? Because it leads to King's Landing or just because it was the longest road that was actually built? It did span from Castle Black down to Storm's End after all. In the end, this was just some curiosity of Logan acting up. What made him even more thoughtful about it was that he now knew more about the lake he came out from. It was called God's Eye. Pretty convenient for a name. It looked like his benefactor Shurog had a particular pride to send his champion more grandly to another world. He was probably telling him that he is God and this was his eye and connection to this world. But Logan did not bother long on it since with this he could at least know where exactly he was in Westeros. That also explained why V knew about the tourney that would be held. It was only a few days of travel to Harrenhal if they kept on the road and then changed direction to the west. They could even see other people traveling to the location with them. But most passed them pretty quickly with only giving them a few suspicious glances. It was most probably because of the slow pace they used while traveling. Sure, the horse was moving a little bit unsteady, but it remained moving at a constant pace with its confident stride. Not that Logan needed to trot or gallop anywhere. Well, to tell the truth, if he wanted to do that, then he would probably send himself flying down to the dirt. It was already hard enough keeping control over his horse. He never rode before, and this was an entirely new way of transportation. His ass was already hurting from the movements, and the uncomfortable way he was sitting with V in front of him didn't make it better. The only real solace in this was that his riding skill improved very fast and he was already at beginner level 6. And with that, he could feel how it became much more comfortable to balance himself and V on horseback, making it less painful. Sir Logan, are you sure I should keep sitting here? I could get on one of the carts and sit with the soldiers, asked V now. It's all right, didn't William tell you already? With this, you can get a feeling of riding a horse. You are expected to do so soon anyway, answered Logan back to her. But it feels so strange. The way the horse sways to the left and right is. Don't say it, it's just that I am not used to riding a horse with someone else on it. Hell, since I was little, I never liked riding a horse. So, don't say a word. I'm sorry. A burst of amused laughter came from the right side. I already told you, at some point, you will have to learn how to ride better. Looking to the side, he could see William riding his horse very calmly as if nearly falling asleep. Tell me, old man, why is V not riding with you then? Logan was a little bit annoyed by his comment and asked an obvious question. My horse does not like people riding it besides myself. It has a very fiery nature. System, single quote, it is a certain anti-theft measure. Only the retinue assigned to the horse may ride it. Your horse is a little bit different in that regard. And as long you are on the horse then other people may also ride on it. At some point, the horse may also recognize specific people and can be ridden by them without your presence. Ain't that convenient? How come you never told me that? It was a question to William. Why, is it important to know? What if I had to escape or something and your horse was the only one available to use? Good argument. Well, let's say you would have a bad time. You can ride it as well. Chimed the system now in. Logan only sighed and concentrated. Horse riding level up. And with that level up the horse became immensely more stable than before. See, you are getting the hang of it, told William after he saw how the horse became steadier in its track and stopped fighting against Logan his commands with the reins. Tisk. Well, let's up the speed then. Logan used the reins and increased his speed into a trot. Horse riding level up. All right system, stop informing me about that, please. Single quote. Understood. I will only inform you about the breakthroughs. Fine by me. Better than being reminded that I still suck. Single quote. Just at that moment when he increased the speed, and the horse started its trot, V nearly fell from the horse. Logan caught her before that happened and held her waist. Looks like with this pace it's still too much for you, he commented and decreased the pace again. Looking at her status, he saw she was still a beginner level 3 in horse riding. Was that because she was not riding and only getting a feel for it while being with someone on a horse? Thank you. V apologized after she nearly fell and lowered her head. A particular red blush appeared on her cheeks after she saw him holding her much firmer than before. Don't mention it. Come to think, we have been on the road for quite some time now. Even the sun is starting to set. V looked at the sky. Yes, we will probably still take a few days to get to Harrenhal. Logan nodded. All right, let's set up a camp somewhere off the road for now. Then he looked back at his army. Everyone, we will set up camp here. Archers, get hunting in the surrounding forests. The others take care of preparing the camp. After his orders, it didn't take long, and they went to a suitable place to camp a little bit of the main road while the swordsmen built up the tents and other things like a campfire. The archers prepared themselves for hunting and walked off into the direction of the nearest forest. If they get something will be shown later when they return. Logan also made sure that his archers act accordingly if someone bickers about them hunting animals. That being said, they were instructed to kill if found out. Usually, it was illegal to hunt without permission, and it would incur the wrath of the Lord owning the land, but Logan could care less. No one owns nature, and he made sure to stay to that fact. That being said, he started to make himself comfortable until everything is prepared. After letting V dismount the horse, he also came down from the saddle and stretched himself. His body felt somewhat rusty, and it ached all over. Especially his ass was hurting like hell. V looked at him in curiosity and also mimicked his stretching. She was surprised to feel inevitable light pain in various regions after doing those exercises. Logan noticed her behavior and smiled. You are learning fast. Stretching helps to keep the muscles elastic. With that, you will be prone less to injury. Keep in mind to do some of it before you start training and right after it. Of course, don't even bother doing it before a battle. Finishing up, he walked over to William and talked to him. He nodded in response and went off to get something from the cart. All right, it is time for some sword practice, said Logan after returning to V. Really? Asked V back in a somewhat surprised manner. What is it? You don't feel like it? Logan saw her slight hesitation and wondered if her will was that fickle. No, it is just I feel somewhat tired already. I see, I haven't thought about that since I don't feel tired myself. Well, go as far as you can. Exhaust yourself in training, and it will reward you later in life. Logan understood her reason, but at the same time, he wouldn't let her get an easy way out. She had to train, and that's it. Yes, my lord. she replied in a way as if she received an order. Logan looked at her with a raised brow. William also came back at that moment with 3 wooden swords. He gave one to each of them and then positioned himself in front of them both with the last one. Good, listen up. Today I will give you a basic sword movement that you will practice until you cannot hold your sword anymore. Logan, I know you got some basic body training but you never really did practice any weapons until now, right? That is correct, Uncle. This will be the first time for me as well. Why the sudden change now? William smiled and seemed to be happy to teach him. I feel like I want to try it myself now. Can't let myself get protected all the time. Just the event in the tavern showed me exactly why I need to start learning. Logan smirked back. He kept the image of a good nephew in his uncle. It was the truth. He did want to learn swordsmanship, and he already planned for it. In his previous life, the only things he learned were boxing and taekwondo. And those things don't have that much of a use in this world. At least not on a battlefield. But he can still train them to improve his pugilism and one-on-one capabilities. Maybe even implement them into his style he would use later. Sir Logan is also a beginner, asked V now and was wondering about it. Why was a lord not educated in the sword? My uncle was mostly taking care of things regarding my safety. But I get the feeling that I will have to learn to protect myself now. What about you? Avery held a sword. He looked at V and explained why he was not trained in anything. She was in thought for a second and nodded in understanding why after remembering that he was alone in the tavern when the bandits came. No, this is my first training as well. Father only told me some things but never taught me. She shook her head with those words to answer his last question. Alright, enough chit-chat. William, his facial expression became cold and stern. He immediately stopped them both in their conversation. It is time for training. I demand discipline. Execute this movement. I am going to show you. He grabbed the hilt of the wooden sword with both hands, lifted the sword until it was over his head and executed a vertical slashing movement to his front. The precision in that one strike was very accurate. There was no trembling or other unwanted factors in it. He repeated it a few more times, and every attack looked precisely like the one before. Then he stopped. Saw it. Now, do it until you drop from exhaustion. This exercise will strengthen your grip and muscles. To wield a proper sword, you will have to master the wooden one first. Logan and V both nodded and started to do the exercise on their own. William only looked over to them to see how each of them would fare. After positioning himself so that his feet were wide and aligned to each other like in a horse stance, Logan started doing the movement. V followed right after. While doing the first slash, he did notice that the wooden practice sword was specially designed to be held by 2 hands at its grip like an average longsword. And it looked like its quality was out of higher materials. It even felt somewhat more cumbersome for just being a wooden sword. It was still lightweight enough to be swung easily, though. The only reason Logan could guess why it was crafted that way is probably to simulate a real blade as well as being sturdy enough to be used in sparring later on. After a few minutes of swinging that sword around, he could feel his muscles warming up and even start to burn and ache. They cried out in horror because he didn't stop moving that sword. And the wood that was just simple lightweight began to feel like tons of weight in no time at all. V was the first to start to tremble and lost her grip on her sword more than once. Picking it always back up, she continued. But at some point, she only huffed and coughed in exhaustion. William looked her over and noticed it was her limit for now. But even then she had chewed her teeth together and executed those movements for half an hour. For a beginner that was a fantastic feat. Pick up your sword. Do this movement now. Logan, you can also stop. He showed them to hold the word forward and twist their wrist so that the blade went from right to left. He also changed the holding hand from his right to the left side. Do that as long as you can as well. Then start stretching and massaging your sore arms. That will be it for today. All in all, after the training, Logan, his arms and shoulders were hurting, but he didn't feel the least amount of fatigue. System, why do I not feel exhausted? Single quote. Is that not obvious? You are an undead. You will not tire out and can execute such exercises to infinity, though you should take note of the increasing pain and damaged muscles. If you overdo it, you may as well cripple yourself. Right now William saved you from overdoing it. Keep moderation in mind. How come I didn't get a new skill after doing some practice? Single quote. You did learn it, though you did tell me only to mention your significant breakthroughs. Alright, looks like you misunderstood me. Tell me about new skills but keep those level up messages down. Single quote. Understood. Skill swordsmanship acquired. Beginner level 4. Amazing. That little bit of training catapulted me to level 4 already. Single quote. Your body is unique. It regenerates much faster than ordinary people. And with that, your muscles also learn faster from practice. But don't think that it will always be as quickly as it is now. Later on, when you reached a certain standard, it will become hard to improve. Nodding to himself and acknowledging the warning from the system, he walked over to V. And, is the training just the way you thought it would be? He chuckled lightly while telling her that. At the same time, he tried to act as if he was somewhat exhausted as well. Skill acting acquired. She looked back at him and had to catch some breath first. It's somewhat different. I remember my father telling me other things. But it is effective. I am exhausted. Logan smiled now. The more exhaustion you feel, the better. At some point, your body will remember it all. Let's get something to eat to balance out the energy we wasted. The others already have returned and prepared something. I can smell it already. Vilia was a little bit confused about what he meant but nodded nonetheless. She followed him to the campfire where they could grab something to snack on. Her hunger was apparent because she started eating very eagerly. A little bit later Logan noticed that it became eerily quiet in this small camp. So he stood up and went over to the cart. Hey, system, does the shop have a guitar I can buy? Single quote. An acoustic guitar is only 1 merit point. Should I buy it? Yes, please. Single quote. Done, please check your inventory. Being prompted, Logan took out the guitar and acted as if he took it out of the cart. Then he walked over back to the campfire and slowly tuned the guitar. All the soldiers looked at him, and some even smiled after seeing the instrument. V also focused her attention on it. She became quite curious about it because she never saw one like that. Is that a musical instrument, my lord? Yes, it is called a guitar. Let's see if I can still play it. Logan smiled after thinking back to the times where he played it as a child. Positioning the guitar on his thigh, he started to play on the strings to see if he tuned it correctly. Nodding to himself in confirmation that it sounded about right, he began to think about what to play. Then a little idea came to his mind. Right, how about I play something I recently heard in another tavern? I think it went something like this. And with that, he started playing the melody of the Reigns of Castamer. He even started singing to it. And who are you, the proud lord said, that I must bow so low? Only a cat of a different coat. ... And not a soul to hear. After he stopped playing, he got few new messages from his system. Skill playing instruments gained. Advanced level 2. Skill singing gained. Intermediate level 2. Looks like old experiences are still taken over to this world. Single quote. Yes, you know how to play, so I am only here to rate your skill level. Your singing though is only somewhat decent. Shut up, I didn't say that I am a singer. Single quote. His soldiers applauded him for this little performance. V also smiled and clapped for him. That was a beautiful song, my lord. I never heard someone playing an instrument like that. Just the guitar on its own is soothing one's mind. Thank you. He smiled at her. Here, I still got a lot more melodies. Let's all enjoy the little time we spend like this. And with that, they used the rest of the time to listen to his songs. Since he was pretty good with the guitar, everyone very much enjoyed it. It was at least somewhat better than just sitting around and keeping quiet. The atmosphere even became slightly merrier. At least Logan achieved his goal. He didn't know why, but he had the thought to keep his army happy for whatever reason. But maybe it was himself getting bored somewhat. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 20 comments, 0 vote. The Tourney of Fate. A few days have now passed with Logan being on the road to the fateful tourney that would later decide Westeros' fate. It would be the beginning of the Baratheon rebellion and the end of the century-old Targaryen rule over the 7 kingdoms. All the while he traveled, his army grew more significant by the day. Logan could now summon a loyal, competent cohort of 1,000 men. It was a fighting force to be reckoned with for just being one little lord without any lands. Even the evaluation by the system got upgraded to a little mercenary group. What the most notable change was though is the fact that he could finally summon light cavalry as well now. And he also had space for another retinue later on. System, what intervals do I get new retinue? Single quote. I can only tell you that you need 2k men to get the next retinue. That is another 5 level to the system. The current level of the system is 10. You seem to level up pretty fast. It only has been days. Single quote. As I already have told you, the stronger you get, the more power will be available from the system. That may include political improvements as well as personal ones. Exterminating that little bandit group you met on the road was also added as battle experience. That still does not answer my question. Single quote. See it as a level system. Like in many RPG you know from your old world. The start is always easier than the end. Later levels will have more significant boosts. For example, now you gain 200 men per level. But leveling from here onwards takes effort. Logan only nodded inwardly to that. Alright. Question though, can I organize my army before I summon them? Single quote. Logan wanted to build up his little army, but he also had to make sure he didn't raise any suspicion or alerts. He decided to keep them unsummoned for the time being if possible. Many houses would become wary and frightened otherwise. Who would let such a threat run around? That is possible. Do you have any suggestions? Let's see. Since I already got 20 swordsmen and 10 archers and still 970 men to choose. Hey, are there any other new units beside the cavalry? Single quote. No, fine, do it like this then. It should be useful. Increase the swordsmen by 380 units. Add 200 units of spear infantry and 190 units of archers. The last 200 units should be cavalry. Since being diverse right now is idiotic, summon 200 light cavalries with swords. That should be all. Is there a new retinue type? Single quote. Right now you can choose between a general, strategist, or magister. Oh, I can get help in ruling later on. Well, no need to summon him right now. He will probably not be able to be kept unsummoned, right? Single quote. That is correct. Your retinue works differently than your army and cannot be kept on standby. Nodding to himself once more, he kept it at that. He was finally arriving at his destination. A little bit sooner than he thought, to be exact. Logan could already see some royal banners flailing around in the winds. There were a lot of them, to be exact. He could see the major ones like the Starks and Lannisters and of course the Targaryen banners, but there were also a lot of other flags put up from other smaller houses and even some local and foreign knights. The further one was from the jousting site, the more unknown the flags became. This was a tourney after all, and everyone had the chance to show their prowess in chivalry, but the hierarchy still was in place. So many people. There are probably more than 1,000 different houses taking part in this tourney, remarked Avi that looked around in amazement. Looks pretty large for a tourney. Look, there are even banners of the 7 kingdoms and the king of the Iron Throne himself present. The local lords seem to have not spared any effort for this. But what makes me wonder is why the tourney site is still so far away from Harrenhal. I thought it would be held close to the castle, wondered Logan. Maybe they needed more space for all the people. Logan was somewhat concerned about the position of the tourney being somewhere else than where it was supposed to be. Maybe. Alright, no time to worry about it. Men, settle our tents somewhere around the local area. Don't get into trouble with some major house over space. I will go register ourselves and get some seats to watch, ordered Logan his men and dismounted his horse. V also dismounted and then held the rein of the horse. My lord, you mean we are taking part in the tourney? But we are not good enough. It's not us. William, you will take the honor and bring glory to our house, won't you? Smirked Logan while looking at his grand knight. Of course, my lord. He smirked back, just leave it to me. Good, then let us proceed. Nodded Logan and led William and V to the officials after parking the horses. It took a while to find them, but before they could get into an initiative, they were talked to on their own. It looked like they wanted to speak to him on their own accord. Hello, good sir. Would you please tell us your name and what your suit is here on the tourney? Asked a man with beautiful silk clothing. One could see that he was enjoying a higher social life, and from the looks, he was the one responsible for noting down the expenditures from the guests on this tourney. My name is Esser Logan Meliar. This here is my uncle, Esser William Meliar. We are here to take part and also watch the tourney, answered Logan and introduced himself and William. He did not mention Vilia because it was of no importance and they would think about her being a servant maid anyway. Well, at least until she helps William ready up at the tourney where they will see that she was his squire. The man scribbled something on a pretty rough parchment of paper and looked over at the sigil. He seemed to note down its colors and form and then looked back at him. Are both us going to participate? The man asked now. No, only my uncle will do so. I see. Then we welcome Esser on this tourney. May you enjoy your stay here. We also wish you the best in the tourney. Thank you. After Logan thanked them and William nodded, they moved back to take note of some other knights that seemed to have arrived at the same time they did. Prepare everything. Since you are William's squire, you will have your work cut out for you. William, don't disappoint me. Now then, I will go and mingle between the so-called elite society of nobles. William and V both nodded after having received their orders. It would still take a few days until the tourney started, but Logan would not waste that time just relaxing. It was about time to go and meet some extraordinary characters. That is if he gets the chance to meet them. Walking around, Logan could easily find his targets. The significant houses that were directly under the crown were clustered together in a specific area. And by the looks, they were already quite some time here. Logan just stood outside the area while having his left arm resting on his sword that he brought from the system after collecting enough merit. Getting closer than that seemed to be a problem. There were guards already looking his way, and they appeared to be wary of him. Just when he wanted to forget about his idea and go to the tourney stage, someone noticed him and approached him. Well, look what we have here. Have you gotten lost? Asked a blonde young man in shining golden armor. Logan only raised a brow and looked at the man. What is it? Can a man not even admire the prestigious houses anymore? Oh, you can, but just standing around there is a little bit suspicious. As if you never saw our banners. Maybe you are even plotting something. Logan now narrowed his eyes. Our banners? Well, to be sincere, I am no Westerosi. I came from Sothorios, so I may still be somewhat new to things. Looking closer, he could finally put things together. This was Jaime Lannister. He nearly didn't recognize him with his youthful appearance. Sothorios? Where is that? Never heard of it, said Jaime and became even more suspicious. It is a continent south of Essos. Beyond the Great Sea, even further away than Valyria. So it is normal to not know about it here. But I am sure if you ask an experienced maester he should know about it, answered Logan and looked back to the camps. And you come all the way here to Westeros to take part in a tourney? Is that not a little bit too much? I am not living here because of the tourney but for other reasons. You should refrain from being so nosy. You still haven't even introduced yourself. Is that so? Well, if you are so fond of admiring, you can start with me. I am Esser Jaime Lannister, Kingsguard to Aerys Targaryen. Logan chuckled somewhat and glanced over to Jaime. So you became a glorified knight in exchange for your birthrights. I wonder what your father thinks. I heard the Lannisters are quite prideful about their lineage. So you did inform yourself about us. But why do I feel that you are scorning my position? Being a Kingsguard is an essential duty. Jaime rebuked with a somewhat unhappy look on his face. It reminded him of certain things, and he didn't like that. Logan only smiled at him now. Well, Esser Jaime, I am only a mere wandering knight. What do I know about honor and glory? He looked back to the banners. My name is Esser Logan Meliar. Now, if there is nothing else, I would like to go and take a look at the site where the tourney will be held. Sure, Esser Logan, said Jaime, and there was a hint of smug in his voice, but Logan didn't bother about it. Jaime didn't even take his words for what they were. He probably already deemed him to be a worse knight than himself. He probably also thought about him being some random noble before he told him his title. This Jaime was still high on his achievements and didn't bother of upholding the chivalry code he was knighted on. He even showed a certain arrogance. At least that is what Logan thought about him for now. When he tried to walk away, Jaime noticed the peculiar scabbard hanging from Logan's side. It had some pretty fancy workings on it. Wait, can I ask about that sword? Logan stopped and looked back at Jaime. You mean my sword, Eclipse? What about it? You named your sword. Now I am even more curious. Can you show it? Asked Jaime once more. Thinking about it a little, Logan nodded and agreed to his request. Sure, he pulled out the sword and held it comfortably in front of himself. Jaime now had somewhat of a disbelieving look. He could see the cold shine of sharpness from this blade. It was in pristine condition, and the pattern inside the fuller of the sword told him something else. It was very likely made with Valyrian steel. It had that particular swirly pattern that was also seen in Damascus blades. So Jamie was sure that it was made from the very precious metal that was lost to time and now only was available through some ancestral swords of some noble houses. What a beautiful blade. Is it Valyrian steel? How come it has such a deep shine to it? Before Jamie could ask more about the bladder-like what was up with the silvery white edges of the blade that made a bright contrast to its darker core or the runic patterns that seemed to have been etched into its fuller near the guard, Logan sheathed it back into its scabbard. Not exactly. Its metal content is something else. But I think it is pretty close to what you refer as Valyrian steel, answered Logan and thought about his question. Come to think, system, is his assumption about my silver sword right? Single quote. Partly. Valyrian steel is a combination of Damascus and dragonfire, whereas your blade is a combination of refined steel, meteorite silver, and dragonfire. Generally speaking, it is somewhat comparable. But your silver sword is not only special in that regard. Because you recast Winter's blade, a sword that had already been forged in some dragonfire, and mixed it with precious meteorite silver. You did create your own very unique silver sword. It has become imbued with fire magic instead of its old ice magic. With that, it outperforms any Valyrian blade known. Not to mention the 5 runes that increase its sharpness and sturdiness. That is also the reason why its core has a deep shine to it. I see now why it is hard to get Valyrian blades. No one can get their hands on dragonfire nowadays. Why were these runes etched into my sword again? Single quote. To compensate for its weight loss. When you buy an item and reforge it, you get a certain amount of matter. More mass equals more matter in this case. But because your creation was so lightweight, it got some runes as compensation. The reforge option in the shop is an exchange of similar matters. You should be happy because that blade will likely never break nor get dull like regular silver blades. And a sword like this would typically cost you quite a sum of merit points. You made a wise choice in reforging it. Caution is advised not to cut yourself though. The unique scabbard imbued with 5 sturdiness runes helps in that case, or otherwise no material could hold it for long until it gets cut through. Of course, I reforged it. This blade already cost me a pretty penny. Making me broke again until I collect some merit points or level up. I wonder how the Witcher were even able to afford silver swords for every member. But then again, there weren't that many Witcher around. Good thing he only needed to provide the points for the missing components and reforge effort. I don't even want to hear the cost for a blade that was forged in real dragon fire or phoenix fire straight out of the shop, my delicious 5,000 points. Single quote. Would you consider selling it to our family? The amount of money doesn't matter, said Jamie after thinking about the blade. His eyes had inevitable greed to them now. That little offer broke Logan's short conversation with the system. Your family, you know you discarded your birthright, right? Anyway, this blade is not for sale. Don't bother trying to convince me. You are better off trying to buy it from some other house. Now if you would excuse me. May we see us again, Sir Jamie? You as well, Sir Logan, nodded Jamie, somewhat more respectful now even if a little bit dejected. Shortly after he also left straight to the Lannister camp. It seems he wanted to visit his father for something, or it was Tywin himself that asked for him. Or maybe that guy just wanted to visit his sister. That thought alone made Logan somewhat cringe in disgust. One thing was certain, this encounter will probably have a higher impact now since he showed his blade. Even if he was only visiting his sister, he soon would tell his father about this blade and therefore about Logan. Was it such a good idea to show him his blade? Logan was not too sure about it, but he did consider this outcome. He may as well go through with it now. Logan walked and went to the tourney area to see what he would soon see. And what he saw made him open his mouth a little in surprise. There was not only the jousting area but also dueling, archery and many other competitions. That amount of games was too much for just some tourney. But then again, why would the great houses otherwise meet near such a place that was deemed to be cursed? Whoever owned Harrenhal? Money and honor, of course. He was probably also underestimating the reward money for the tourney. Enjoy. Soulcrystal creators' thoughts. 55 comments, 0 vote. Fate of people. Logan looked straight at a round target made from wood. It was wrapped around with a white cloth and was marked with some paint in the middle. It was an archer's target. To get some practice and also kill some time while the others put up the camp, Logan decided to do some archery. So he carried over a longbow and some ammunition in form of arrows from one of his soldiers to this archer's target. Currently, he was equipping a bracer. He put it on his left forearm because of his right-handedness. It is also where he would hold the bow. He didn't plan to injure himself unnecessarily if the string hit his inner side of his arm because he had shown some lack of concentration while pulling the string. Come to the point of injury. While he was not sure how much of an injury he could sustain and still function normally, he really didn't want to test those waters out anytime soon. Being undead eased one thing but feeling constant pain another. With that precaution done, he vaguely aimed at the target and pulled on the string of the bow until it was about enough power. Any more and the string would likely break. With his current body, he noticed it was not a problem to exert unnormal amounts of strength. But even that had some limitations and he could not go and become some Superman. Nevertheless, when he let go of the arrow, it flew straight at the target and it even nearly hit the bullseye. Logan only frowned at that outcome. Am I too close? He checked his range and saw that he was actually a good 50 meters away from the target. Feeling that this range was not good enough, he distanced himself even further until he was at a range of about 75 meters. This time when he shot the arrow it deviated a lot more, but it was still a clean hit on target. With a slight smile, Logan increased the distance to 100 meters. Now it became very hard to clearly see the target and aiming became a matter of millimeters. This distance was probably already unrealistic in competition, but he still wanted to see if he could hit it. And just as he thought, his arrow this time around barely hit the target at its outer edge. His body could just compensate for so much skill. He would need to become better. Even his drawing speed was still extremely lacking. Nice shooting. Not bad. You got some real skill. A voice came from his side and Logan was a little bit surprised. While concentrating on shooting, he actually didn't notice someone had approached him. He looked over and saw a black-haired woman with gray eyes. Her hair was long and showed a wild beauty in it with subtle waves in them. Her long facial features enchanted her wildness even more. And then there was that smirk she had on her face. Kind and yet devilish. Just for a little second, Logan was stunned. This woman was a beauty. Even in his old world, she would count as one. She had a slim figure and instead of wearing a dress she seemed to have chosen more comfortable clothes to wear. Where did you learn to handle the bow like that? Asked the woman again and didn't stop her initiative. Logan was amused and came back to his senses. Even a smile appeared on his own face. Most of it was learned from my uncle. Logan answered her and prepared another shot. After hitting the target again and getting the hang of the distance, he looked back at her. Are you also interested in archery? Interested? What is there not to be interested in it? All that concentrating, to pull and let go in a glimpse of a moment. It feels so refreshing to feel the euphoria after one hits the target. The reward of one's effort. It sounds like you know your craft. Logan chuckled. The woman said something that made sense. Logan himself never really appreciated the sport in that way because he thinks more of it as a means to an end. A tool to survive and wage war. You don't believe me? What, are you one of those that think women can't do it? I will have you know that I can do that shot easily as well. Hearing that, Logan was somewhat surprised. Did he sound like he was belittling her? No, of course not. I don't discriminate, woman. I am pretty sure you can handle it if you say so. Where are you from? The woman was somewhat interested in his words. She didn't seem to believe him much because she knew better how women were treated in the Central Kingdoms. But she also didn't feel that this man was lying to her either. Sothorios. It is pretty far away. Hey, to make it up. How about I let you use my bow? You can show me your own skills. If you want, we could even do a little duel who can hit closer to the bullseye. Interested? Said Logan and offered her his equipment that consisted of his bow and bracer. Now the woman smiled again. Prepare to lose then. She took the bow and bracer he lent her and started to prepare. Lyanna. But just at that moment, another shout was heard. Oh, shite. Here, take your things back. Quick. She shoved the bow and bracer back at him in a fast manner and looked into the direction where the voice came from. Diplomatics updated. With that little system sound, Logan could now put one and one together. It seems like the person that showed her back to him at this moment was Lyanna Stark. Being somewhat curious, Logan followed her gaze and saw two men approaching them. Both of them were still young, capable men, probably around 20 to 30 by the looks of it. So about the same age as himself. Maybe a little bit older since his own body currently is that of a 22-year-old. One of them wore a whole set of leather-studded armor and the other seemed to have mail on him. There was also a black deer on a yellow banner cloth on the chainmail guy. I guess that must be that fat king. He actually is pretty good looking. He really was not lying. Especially those few pounds less make a real difference. Logan was, of course, thinking about Robert Baratheon. The features he had in his mind pretty much matched up. But it was still a surprise seeing him rather well built instead of round. His black curly hair with that beard was already there as well. Even though the beard was way more trimmed at this age. And by the looks, that other person is Eddard Stark. Why are they constantly wearing armor? Single quote. Lord Baratheon, what a surprise to meet you here. Lyanna was courteous. If Logan didn't just experience her other personality he would not have believed she was the same person. Robert started to laugh. Don't be so formal. We are betrothed and soon we get to be married. Just call me by my name. He even hugged her with passion after answering. It really is good to see you. You look as beautiful as ever. Eddard didn't say anything at first and only smiled at his younger sister. But when he saw the man standing behind her a few meters he got curious and looked over at him. Logan did not interfere in this little reunion and just proceeded with firing another arrow. It was not his place to do so after all. And who is this? Asked Robert after also noticing him shooting. Logan stopped what he did and looked over to them. Someone I met just now. He is very good with the bow. I haven't asked for his name yet, answered Lyanna and looked at him waiting for him to reveal his name. My name is Sir Logan Meliar. Calling me Logan is just fine. Logan answered with a smile since he had no reason to deny them that information. A knight, that is a surprise. Are you also doing some warming up? Looks like birds of the same feather flock together. Me and Ned here were also getting some sparring done, right? He bumped Eddard his shoulder to get a response out of him. After all, he knew that his friend was a shy and quiet one. Lord Baratheon, shouldn't you introduce yourself first? Lyanna urged him now, and she still seemed to call him by his title. Robert was a little bit dissatisfied by that and slightly frowned. Right, my name is Robert Baratheon. Then he pointed towards Lyanna and Eddard. This here is my fiancée Lyanna Stark. And this bloke is my good friend Ned Stark. Eddard Stark. Friends and family call me Ned, corrected Eddard after hearing him use that alias. Logan only nodded. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintances. I didn't think I would meet 3 people from such prestigious houses here. Is that something special? There are a lot of houses gathered at this tourney. Of course it is. You don't see this big of a tourney all the time. It may even become the largest for a long time to come, no? That is true. While Logan seemed to get into a conversation with Robert, Eddard came closer to Lyanna. Lyanna, father is asking for you. You should go back. Lyanna only frowned and sighed. I don't want to. He is probably demanding that I wear that stupid dress. It is an official event. As a noble lady, you should show yourself properly. I know you don't like it but that is how it is. Ned is right. Your beauty would stun people, even more, when you would wear a dress. Robert also agreed to that after hearing their words. Friend, what do you think? Isn't my Lyanna a precious gem? It was actually Logan that was asked this question. Now, this was a weird and peculiar situation. What answer did he expect? But he had to admit that Robert was very sure of himself that no one else would get Lyanna. Logan could only sigh inwardly to that. No wonder this guy was even going so far as to rebel for her. And in a sense, he did understand why he did it. She is a beauty. That is for sure, and with the wild nature that she has. I guess a dress would become a rare appearance on her. A blue dress with some white in it would suit her most, I think. Maybe a flower in her hair. Also blue. Well, I am starting to ramble. Yes, I think it would look good. Lyanna was surprised at his answer and stared at him. This was the first time someone actually had such an opinion of her just from meeting her for a short moment. Robert was also thinking about his words. He was already imagining her in such a dress. Come to think he also never saw her wear such clothing. She was a northern noblewoman through and through. She always wore clothing that was more warrior-like. That is an interesting viewpoint. Laughing about it he placed an arm around Logan and shook him in a friendly manner. Both men were about the same height. Logan just being a tad taller. I like you, friend. Lyanna, can you please do that? I really want to see it now. Lyanna only smiled at that request. For some reason, she actually seemed to be a little bit happy. At the tourney, it's not like I will have any other choice with father. Just when the four of them started to get along and talk more openly, something occurred close by. They could hear another man being attacked by some lads with swords. Those people just attacked him and injured his body like his legs or chest. And after seeing him only crawl on the ground they put away their swords. But that only was the start of them kicking him while he was on the ground. Ha ha ha, look at this frog eater. He can't even protect himself anymore. What's wrong, you swamp dweller? Did you lose your way out of that swamp? We told you to not get near this place. Seeing that, Lyanna frowned and started walking at them. Logan also followed her because he knew what this was all about. Robert and Eddard looked at each other and also followed. People of Central Westeros liked to discriminate people that were not from their lands. One of those ethnicities was the people of the North, and especially the people that lived in the swamps that were located at the neck that split the North and Central apart. In the past, this swamp was the only barrier that protected the children of the forest from being exterminated. Hate built up over generations until the now known Northmen accepted their religion and settled the North with the help of the children of the forest. It was from the long history that they had together that this conflict didn't diminish to this day. Hey, what are you doing to him? Shouted Lyanna and demanded an answer from those other four men. Huh, what is it to you, woman? Do you have a problem? Are you actually protecting this frog-eater? Asked the guy that seemed to be the leader of those men. I asked you something. Stop this violence at once. Shut up, you wench. The guy became irritated and attacked Lyanna as well. Seeing that, Lyanna wanted to retaliate. But right the next second she was surprised to see another man punch the face of that guy so hard that he was sent flying to the ground. Logan moved his head from one side to another after punching the first guy and slowly moved to him. You really got some guts to dare and hit a woman. Pieces of shit like you should really be taught a lesson. Logan, his stare became serious and he was disgusted by this bunch. Now he was preparing to beat the crap out of them. You, the guy that he punched stood back up and drew his sword. Are you sure about that? If you dare attack with that I will not show mercy and kill you. The guy actually flinched with that threat. After a second he looked to his comrades. They nodded and started to surround Logan. Robert and Eddard saw that and also drew their weapons to help him out. Especially Robert because he was already mad with how that bastard called his fiancée. But what happened then surprised even them. Logan was like a bolt of lightning. His speed was so fast that those guys couldn't even react. He charged the first guy he already hit once because he was the closest. Being surprised he swung his sword at Logan but couldn't do much with that attempt. Logan just sidestepped and punched out a straight punch that connected and stunned the guy for a short moment. With the following uppercut to his chin, he KO'd him instantly. Seeing their leader only lying on the ground, unmoving, the others became enraged and also attacked. But Logan already moved into position and avoided their chaotic attacks. Grabbing one guy's wrist he twisted it. That guy let his weapon fall and was disarmed. Then after Logan executed a sucker punch to his sides and let him gasp for air for a short second, he kicked him to the other two remaining guys that were very close by. That disrupted them even more and gave Logan enough time to sprint at one of them and clothesline him unconscious. The last guy was now afraid of this guy that just basically bashed them without a weapon. But because Logan approached him he had no other choice but to engage. The only last thing he saw was his sword hitting nothing and a leg touching the side of his neck. Looking at the ground where those four were now lying around, Logan could still see the one guy who received his sucker punch groan on the ground. Logan just walked over and stomped his face. With that every one of them was unconscious and he could now relax again. When Logan looked back at Lyanna and the other two, he could see their disbelieving eyes wide open. What? Asked Logan with a raised brow. That was amazing. So you really are a knight. Where did you learn to fight like that? Robert asked. He himself fought with his trusty warhammer but he never really saw anyone being so skilled in combat without a weapon in hand. All learned from my uncle. When he repeated his generic answer he heard someone groan and looked over again. It was the other guy that was injured by those four bastards. Lyanna immediately went forward and looked at how bad his wounds were. Ned, help me carry him. He needs treatment. She was right. He had blood gushing from his wounds that were clearly done from those four. Eddard came over and started to pick the injured men slowly up. Logan, may we see us again. Thank you for helping me and not killing them. Now matters are a little bit dire so we will have to leave. Then Lyanna looked over to Robert. Can you find out who these people are? Robert was still somewhat angry and wanted to kill these fools for trying and lay a hand on Lyanna, but he also knew Lyanna would not want that. He could at least make sure they would get a hard thrashing. Leave it to me. After Lyanna and Eddard vanished, Robert looked at those four. He spat on the so-called leader and went over to Logan. Thank you, friend, for protecting my wife. He lay a hand on his shoulder and smiled. If you got some time, come over to my tent and let us drink together. Thanks, I will gladly do so. Logan agreed to meet up sometime. It was actually a good opportunity to make connections, so he would not refuse. Robert nodded after receiving his answer and also started to walk away. Logan stood alone with those four bodies now. Not bothering about them, he started walking back to his own encampment as well. While he did so, he looked at his fist's condition. When he did those punches, he felt a clear pain in them. Damn, just this much and I bruised my hand. Looks like I am just too rusty. Or maybe I am exerting too much strength that this body can't handle yet. But the training from my previous world sure pays off here. At least against opponents of this meager level. Feeling somewhat proud, he went onward. 60 comments, 0 vote. Fire. Logan looked at the tent in front of him with a white banner raised high that had a red eagle on it. He lightly scratched his chin while doing so. Looking to the left and right, the tents around this one were rather basic. Even the fireplace where the soldiers from this camp sat around was grander than most. Just shaking his head in defeat, he entered the tent where he could immediately see his grand knight and squire. Since when did we have this huge tent, William? Am I going to hear an excuse from you for wasting our funds? He asked nonchalantly. Waste? It is only proper for a lord. You have been neglecting that for far too long, Logan. If you visit such a place, we should at least have this much to show. And while we do this young lord needs to scavenge all the money he can get from bandits that are encountered. Does that make sense? I am also a man of good food, but here I can now see where most of the money went in, snorted Logan as if he were concerned. V looked at their conversation with a smile and slight confusion. She was also surprised they had this huge tent on one of their carts. Thinking about his action of scavenging all the bandits, it made some sense now. Her look even seemed to say that William was going too far with just using their funds for something like this tent. At least he should have saved up most of it for keeping them fed. Looking at William with a slight blaming look, he smiled. He wondered if he would get an Oscar for his acting skills. Probably not, but at least he needed to somehow explain the magical stuff appearing. System, please don't let my oh so grand knight purchase stuff without my permission, okay? Opening square bracket ... Okay, but it was not expensive. Only 2 merit points. Do you prefer money instead? For 100 gold it would only take 10 merit points. Wait, what? I can actually exchange merit points into gold? Sure, but I would not see the benefit. Using merit points for such things is such a waste. For example, that guitar was alright since it would probably fetch a few hundred gold coins if sold to a lord that enjoyed music instruments. Producing such high-quality items otherwise would be hard for craftsmen. Also, purchasing magic items with merit points is also a much more efficient way than to purchase the mundane. Gold is just gold. Find a gold mine and that would be enough to last you for whatever years to come. Logan nearly coughed up the drink that he picked up from the table at the side when he heard the explanation. But thinking about it real hard, Logan was actually convinced the system was right. Money had actually no real value nor power. Those that think that they are powerful because they have it are just delusional idiots. Logan sighed lightly. Fine, at least mosquitoes are not going to be a problem this night. But I will miss the stars in the sky. And you can exchange 5 merit points for 100 gold. That is all the money we will need. Can't hurt to have some of it in a world of commerce. Man, now I even regret having shown that petty side of me, ordered Logan to the system. Understood. The gold is converted into 1,000 gold dragoons and located in the chest to the left. Wait, what? Asked Logan. But William was already moving to the said chest and opened it with a special key that had special indentions in it and opened the chest. Then he put a few coins from his pocket inside the chest and closed it again. That should replace the money that I had spent. Are you happy now? Asked William with a blaming sigh. V made such big eyes at all the shining gold coins inside the chest that she nearly drooled. Then a weird look traveled over to Logan. Her frown clearly showed contempt for Ling so blatantly at her. Seeing that one of Logan's eyebrows was twitching. So he could only smile wryly. Haha, Uncle, you should know those are the funds for our army. I would never take away the money that is rightfully my soldiers. Logan cursed inwardly at the damn system playing a trick at him. So it actually meant gold ingots and not coins. What the hell was that conversion rate? He could beat the economy to oblivion if he spammed gold coins like a golden goose. But it is still wasted if you don't use that money to at least present yourself. Somehow Logan had a weird impression that William was only pissed because he revoked the simple system purchases that most retinues had the option to use. At least the ones that were summoned by it. Fine, I give in. Can you guys not think that I am a bad person? Especially you, V. All people have some bad habits. The dead just don't have any use for money, okay. I am sorry, my lord. Realizing her judging eyes were a little too much, she looked away in slight shame. She had gotten too used to his friendly behavior that she actually forgot he was her lord. Logan only smiled. This woman was actually too easy to read. I didn't mean it that way, V. Just keep in mind that I do have that money reserved for people and can't use it up nonchalantly. So I did not really lie when I said that we are a rather poor group. Why else would we come to this tourney if it were different? Why indeed, sighed Logan inwardly at the same time. Right, we are here for the prize money, dittoed V. And honor. Do not let the young lord corrupt you that much, V, added William, and his look was stern. Yes, come, V, the dark side is always full of pleasure, muhahaha, laughed Logan now. V actually got a blush when she realized she herself was influenced by him so much. Then with a determined look towards William, she saluted. For honor. My lord, someone wants to speak to you, said a soldier loudly that came into the tent. I wonder who. You two can come with me this time since everything is done here. Both of them nodded and followed outside. Outside they saw a man in leather armor and dark brown hair. Eddard, I didn't expect you to visit me that soon. Did something happen? Logan was rather surprised to see one of the Stark visiting him. Hello, friend. Eddard nodded lightly and seemed to look around rather surprised and taken by the lavish tent and camp at first. That is why I wanted to keep a low profile. But I guess William should know what he is doing. Just give him his rights back but inform me of his purchases. Got it. The system was attentive and knew when it was talked to. Yes, it is about the man that was attacked at the joust side. My sister is treating him right now but the fever is not going down at all. She asked if you could help. It is said that you are a wandering noble from Sothorios. Our maester said that on your continent disease is rather common and that your people have developed a higher understanding of illnesses. Logan made rather large eyes. They actually had investigated him to this extent. Logan actually may have given away too much information. Thinking about his words, he contemplated at first and thought if it is all right to help them now. Coming to a conclusion, he nodded at the end. I can see what I can do. V, get me the large box inside the tent with the red cross on it. System, purchase a wooden box with a white circle and red cross with medical supplies like bandages, antibiotics, and disinfectant. Make it look medieval. I should be able to discern it with your help. Purchased. Careful, that was rather expensive because of the antibiotics and used up your remaining merit points. You only got 3 left. Doesn't matter. I will improve diplomatics and get it back fast enough. Now you finally understand how it works. I am happy. At that moment V came carrying the said box. Is this the one? She asked. Yeah, that's it. Now, if you would lead us, Eddard. Eddard was a little confused because he saw no maester and Logan seemed to want to go himself. But he just nodded at the end and led them to the campsite of House Stark. When the 3 of them arrived, all soldiers' eyes were on them. Even another man with somewhat longer dark brown hair had noticed their arrival. He approached them. Is that him? Such a young maester? Asked the man. No, brother, this is the noble we talked about. He seems to have no maester, asked Eddard now back. Logan nodded. No need for one. In your lands, they seem to have a high stand but they are not having that much trust in our continent. Let's leave it at that. Now, where is the patient? The other man looked at him slightly suspicious. My name is Brandon Stark, the oldest son of Rickard Stark. Come this way. Introducing himself first, he then nodded and led him to the small tent where Lyanna was treating the wounded man. William, you stay here, too many people will make that tent crowded. V, you come along to learn, ordered Logan. May I come along? Asked Brandon. Looking at the noble, Logan knew what he was after and only nodded. But no interfering. Entering the tent, he could see Lyanna trying to cool the head of the man with a wet cloth and also wipe away the sweat. Hearing them enter, she looked over to them and a smile appeared on her face. "It is good to see you. So you can help us out? We will see. Please remove all the bandages that you already applied." "What? But that would. I said to remove them." He was not going to argue and have no talking back to him at this moment, even though it would be seen as rude. Brandon was already frowning. "V, get me on of the folded white blankets here and lay it out. While I put on gloves and prepare you lay him on that blanket." V did as ordered and took it out while Logan took out ethanol and rinsed his hands with and then put on some thin leather gloves. He had to remark whoever did this had some real skill making the leather as thin as possible but still sturdy. To make sure the gloves were disinfected as well, he repeated the first step. Then when both Lyanna and V managed to position the man on the new cloth and unwrap the bandages, Logan came closer and looked at the various cuts that he had at his upper body. "No wounds on the lower body?" he asked. "None," answered Lyanna and looked intrigued. "Good. V, I will need your help shortly. You can also prepare yourself." "Me too, please," demanded Lyanna now. Logan looked over and nodded. "Just do what I did. Clean your hands with the ethanol and then put on some gloves. We need to keep everything clean as much as possible." Then Logan went on ahead to look at the wounds. They were very crudely sewn. Some not even at all. The rule was everything that was at least 2 centimeters should be shown. Same applied if you can see bone or the wound is gaping. Logan immediately took the scalpel and reopened the few sewn wounds and pulled out the fat stitches that were probably not even sterile. "Okay, V and Lyanna. This is going to be important, but you need to hold him still. Use force if need be. I am going to clean the wounds and look if they damaged any internal organs." Of course Logan hoped there would be no need for an operation. He knew jack shit about that after all. Both nodded, and when Logan slowly used the ethanol it sure was to burn, and the man soon groaned in deep pain. He even opened his eyes in shock. "Shish, we are helping you. Try to endure it." But before Logan said that, the man lost consciousness again. Then Logan slowly poked with tweezers around the wounds and looked them up. Nodding, he sighed in relief. "No wounds that are too deep. Let's stitch them up properly now." Logan took out the very thin thread and slowly stitched the wounds up with the help of Lyanna while V the body up and in place so all wounds at the front and the back could be treated. Then after a short inspection, he gave the clear to bandage him up with the white rolls that were inside the first aid kit. All 3 spectators were amazed by the craftsmanship of the bandage. It looked so thin at first, but once applied it looked much proper. Letting the men rest, Logan gave Lyanna a small glass bottle with pills. "As soon as he wakes up you need him to drink a lot of water. He also should take 3 pills a day for a duration of a week. The fever already seems to go down, so he should be able to wake up soon." Then Logan stretched, unequipped the gloves and threw them into an empty box that was labeled trash. "Skill medicine learned, skill surgery learned." "My lord, your gloves," said V. "What about them? Never use gloves or any other items more than once when doing the treatment. Especially when dealing with infectious diseases like grayscale. That is under the rule of keeping everything clean. Anyway, we are done. That sure took a while. I actually got tired." He was not, but he was still mentally tired. He felt like taking a break for now. "Can you bring everything back? I will join later." "As you wish, my lord." V nodded and carried the box back. Outside she told William the order and both seemed to leave. "Now then, why is a noble like you trying to save a man that you don't even know?" asked Logan, the black-haired beauty. "She has always been that kind of good soul," commented Brandon from the side. "Well, looks like you are no swindler. Thanks for the help. I will inform my father so we can compensate for your troubles." With those last words, Brandon also left the tent. Lyanna looked at him with a smile. "Thank you for helping out. I think it is the right thing to save him. This is a place that should be held in honor. No one should be hurt to the extent where one lost his life. Especially not in a cowardly way as those squires did." So they really were squires. Pathetic imbeciles. "Anyway, I will take my leave then. Just send it to our place if your father decides to really compensate us. I will tell him that." She smiled brightly. "What?" Logan felt weird when he saw her smile like that. "Nothing. It's just that it seems I was right about you. You are a way more honorable man than most I know of." "Is that why you searched through my background?" asked Logan curiously back. No, that should probably have been my father. I only mentioned your name once when he insisted where I was. If it was not me that told it, Eddard would have given in. Sorry about that, he can be a handful at times. Being overprotective and all that. Logan actually smiled. This woman had a smart head on the shoulders. I can see why one would want to protect such a daunting daughter. Daunting, that's new. Most would call me beautiful or something along those lines. Logan raised a brow. That is also true, but I would not dare. With you being engaged, that would make for a rather great disaster, would it no? Lyanna actually smirked. That's no fun. So you are saying I am not worth the fight over? Now Logan even had his mouth lightly agape. This woman is really daring. Is she really tempting fate that much? Well, she does envelope with the prince after all. He knew she was only playing around. I would say you should always be careful what exactly you do. No matter how strong the love is, our responsibilities lie not in it. Logan actually tried to reason with her. Maybe change her mind and save her from the fate that awaits her. Lyanna looked at him and her eyes were darting from one point to the other. His words clearly shocked her and also intrigued her once more. You are pretty confident in just saying that I fell in love with you. Who said it was me? Logan clearly showed a toothy grin now and Lyanna remained silent that instant. Well, see you around, oh wild beauty. A small snicker was heard and he left the tent with Lyanna still looking at the exit. Now her face slowly formed a small frown and she even put a finger near her mouth and lightly gnawed at her nail. A slight groan from the injured men brought her back to her senses and she stopped doing that and went to see if he woke up. Still had this in the drafts. So why not just publish it? God, I still remember writing these 3K word chapters. What a pain XD. I wonder how many people will rage at me in the comments laughing face. Go ahead and hope this chap is enjoyable, cheers. Soulcrystal creators thoughts. To be continued.